Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would sit down and do another video for you guys and gals. Let me get a sip of my water first. Get my radio voice going and let's talk about this. Alright, biggest problem with any sort of lower volume training. When you advocate it, the big influencers are not going to like it. Why? Because they make their living off complexity. They make their living off complexity. My programming is usually relatively simple for my clients, yet you guys have seen me produce some physiques that were extremely impressive over the last few years. You've seen me produce some guys who are brutally strong, 600 plus pound squats, 700 plus pound deadlifts for guys who were not fat. Okay. I can get people big and strong. A lot of my really big, strong guys train less than you think they do. I'm talking like 10 sets a week for their legs. 10 sets a week tops for their chest. I've had guys who bench over 400. You know, we build their bench. Mostly pause benching, a little incline work. We hammer their triceps. Of course, we make sure their back is big, right? Who look jacked, okay? That's usually what it takes. It's good programming. It doesn't have to be complex. But again, I want to dig further into a lot of the data because I want to dig back into a lot of the older studies that are contradicting what this current circle is saying that were not that long ago. But all of that aside, I do feel like everyone wants to throw all this excessive volume at everyone. And this looks good to influencers because they're like, then I can come up with 7 new exercises to throw at people. Try to work every plane, every angle. The problem with that, most people are not trying to be competitive bodybuilders. And I think people have to remember that. People have to remember that your average follower out there isn't trying to be a competitive bodybuilder. So these people are really leading them astray. If they have 1 million followers and they're focusing on sculpting every last head and angle of a muscle, they're trying to get someone stage ready. That's not even usually off-season training. I know bodybuilding coaches who run their people on off-season on way more moderated stuff. I know a bodybuilding coach who runs a bunch of successful bodybuilders, a bunch of successful bikini competitors who's borderline Menzer level hit. Right? It's all about intensity over volume. That's what he preaches. You see guys like Paul Carter, and a lot of people hate Paul Carter. And that's fine. People have their right to their views, perfectly reasonable to have whatever views you have. But he also does push keeping the volumes more moderated, yet his people get results. That's all I'm saying. You can hate on someone all that you want, but are their clients and people consistently getting results? We come over to Birkin. Birkin really shook stuff up because he promoted about the lowest minimalism I've ever seen. I would almost be scared to go that low personally. Yet Martin looked phenomenal. Because what Martin pointed out, you just got to get big and strong, and the heavyweights will make you dense. Your diets will get you ripped. He was right. Because Martin pulled that off. He's like, I don't do cardio. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do cardio. Again, using that as an extreme example, though, look at the routines that he had people doing. And they were focused around the big basic exercises. And then you throw in a little bit of small stuff afterwards, if you need to. It was like 3 heavy work sets of about 4 big exercises every week. That's it. Then you do some isolation stuff as needed for calves, arms, whatever. It worked. He looked phenomenal. He had people who looked phenomenal. I knew someone who he coached at one time. He got great results. He actually got him ready for a bodybuilding show. So here's my point. They want to promote complexity instead of teaching you how to do basic movements and then just fill in the gaps. And for most people, that's really all you need. You're not trying to, do I need 3 different isolation movements for my delts? Jesus Christ. No, you don't need that. I would venture to say that if your delts are a weak link, you could probably come in and do some laterals. On a good basic program with a handful of good exercises done at appropriate volumes, training really hard, if your delts are lagging, do some laterals. Done. And that's almost what I would say. And they don't like to hear this, because how can these influencers tell you? I mean, how many of these guys make the same video over and over on a rope press down or a tricep press down? We do it with our elbows locked in our side, right? That's what they teach you. They're literally making stuff up so that you recruit less tricep. In what world would you lock your elbows by your side if you wanted the long head to go up here? This one right here requires the shoulder movement, right? Your extension should be like that. Unless you're only trying to recruit the lateral head. Doesn't that get worked on the bench? Haven't there been studies showing that the bench press actually hypertrophies that head more than single joint movements do? Haven't we seen that in research? I'm pretty sure we have. So why are you trying to do that? Why would they do that? Because then it sounds like they're teaching something special. I mean, I will see these people make endless videos on press downs and different angles, and this will change your range of motion, and then it really doesn't. Nothing changed at the joint. It just changed your arm swing or something. But the joint didn't change any number of angles, which is what matters. That's when we're talking about range of motion, we are talking about joint angles. That is what we mean. That's the important thing. How many degrees of flexion or extension does a joint go through? Not how far do your hands move. Just saying. If we're talking hypertrophic stimulus. But these people want to make everything complex, but my God, what if you came in and told them, you could do upper lower 4 days a week, do 3 sets of bench, train really hard on it. Now that requires programming. You know, bench and chin-ups on the upper day, squats and deadlifts on the lower, and, 3 hard sets of each. So 6 sets of bench, squat, deadlift, and chin-ups every week. And then whatever your weak links are or your pec muscles are, come in and do some other exercises for them. Right? Whatever you need to bring up after that, work on it. If you need biceps, do some curls. If your delts aren't capped enough, do some lateral raises. If you need bigger calves, do some calf raises. For most people out there, if they trained really hard and did something like this, they would probably get better results than half the crap these people are kicking out. They would. They would. Again, I've been in this game a long time, and I remember how we saw a lot of the OGs train. And I think people would be shocked when you go back to when I was new to all this, about that 25-year mark. Man, a lot of the most jacked guys in the gym, you'd be shocked how many of them train that way. A lot of them bought into the really low volume, high intensity stuff. They really did. Like, they bought in all the way. I will probably not ever fully buy into that. But they were big and strong. They still got results. They did. I saw it. I sat back and watched it. Same with some of my training. When I look at where my biggest bench press numbers have been when I first hit the 365 close grip, then I started pausing 365 wide grip later the next year. I look at what my total volume was like. My pressing volume was way lower than I realized it was every time I look back at my notes. Right? Just saying, guys. Stuff to think about. But if they don't have you guys doing 20 sets per muscle group, how are they going to come up with new content? How are they going to come up with new content on that? They're going to have to discuss those exercises a lot. Man, then they might have to really discuss nutrition and other stuff and recovery in a more correct manner. At the end of the day, how many of the people that follow them are beat up, banged up, everything hurts from all the overuse, trying to do 20 sets of isolation stuff for every muscle, year after year. Then their tendons hurt. They're beat up, overuse injuries. Every time I've been hurt, we look at it, it's almost always overuse. When the majority of the people following this don't need any of that. They need some good basic programming, some solid nutrition advice, and then to focus on their recovery. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.